Hey Dark Shadows fans and Radical ones, Radical Ryan Hunter here to do another Dark Shadows video for you. First off, I want to thank you so much for the support on the 2 Dark Shadows videos I currently have. When I made them, I never figured that the videos would have so many amazing comments of people sharing their stories of running home from school to watch Dark Shadows, or other fans like myself that discovered the show in the early 90s. It's so wonderful being able to hear what the show and movie meant to people. So today's a way of continuing our Dark Shadows conversation, and I'm hoping to show some of you something that you may not know even existed. Going back to the original Dark Shadows video, I want to say that the audio quality on that video is atrocious. This was due to YouTube's copyright restrictions because I originally had the Dark Shadows theme playing lightly in the background. YouTube picked up on the theme and it was flagged. I had to use YouTube's removal of music feature, which made the audio turn out terrible. One day I would love to remaster it with the audio without the music, but that would require a whole new video, sadly. Also, one more thing. For some reason in the video, I said the name Caroline instead of Carolyn. For all the people commenting on that video, yes, I am aware that I did that. I don't know why I did it. And I got so many comments over saying it that way. So please know that I know.
Does that meet with your approval?
Of course it does. It isn't up to me to approve or disapprove of what you do.
No.
Before we get into the WB pilot, I want to recap. I was a huge fan of Dark Shadows, the soap opera, as was my mother, who, like many of you, ran home from school to watch the show. I discovered it in the reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s.
Watching Dark Shadows on the Sci-Fi Channel.
I also loved the revival that happened in the 90s, and the 2 original movies. While the Tim Burton movie did bring Dark Shadows back into the public, and it does have some great moody atmosphere, like I said in that original video, I am not a fan of that take, sadly. But it's 2004, and I'm graduating high school. Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel were on TV, and the WB ordered a Dark Shadows pilot. Unfortunately, like most of these Dark Shadows pilots, it did not get picked up. Matter of fact, the sad part was they didn't pick it up because Angel was on, and they didn't want too many vampire shows. So then they had the idea, let's cancel Angel that's been on already for 5 seasons, and do Dark Shadows instead. Well, that didn't work out, and we got neither. No Dark Shadows, and our other good-natured vampire Angel was canceled. I also want to thank the YouTube account that finally uploaded this pilot after so many years. I know it was shown a few times at Dark Shadows conventions over the years, but I never thought I'd be able to see it. So the first thing I have to say is the pilot was not 100% complete, as you can tell right away. The CGI on the train and the other areas show this. Of course, had the show been picked up, the CGI would have been completed, but we're left with this unfinished episode. Also, you'll notice while we're going through this, a lot of familiar faces, including people that would become stars in their own right after this in the years to follow. So, classically, we start with Victoria Winters on her way to Collinwood. She opens with her famous, "My name is Victoria Winters" quote.
My name is Victoria Winters. It's October 31st. The date didn't even register when the train tickets arrived.
Also, I love that this episode takes place on Halloween night. She's coming to take care of David Collins, but this time there is a twist. Vicky sees a child dressed in a devil costume screaming for help, and it turns out to be a vision of the old vampire Barnabas we see later on. Victoria screams awake from her nightmare, and a passenger tells her they can't hurt you.
Don't worry. They can't hurt you.
Ooh, that was creepy. And I gotta say, I really like the window shot to this famous Dark Shadows intro and the crashing water. There's also a lot of strong colors that I really like, but I feel like due to the video quality, it doesn't help to see much detail. And in some scenes, it completely blurs everything out, unfortunately. Now, I think these color choices would have probably showed up better on TV, and I do get that they're going for this very stark, bold look, but unfortunately, in this quality, it makes everything truly hard to figure out. Vicky meets the younger take on Willie Loomis, this time around played by Gilmore Girls alumni, Matt Zuckery.
Winners?
Collinwood.
What?
Oh, up here they give all the really big spreads their own names. You know, it's like Xanadu, Taj Mahal, IHOP. I'm Willie Loomis, and you're wet.
On the way to Collinswood, they pass the old house. Elizabeth greets Vicky very excitedly and warm. Next, Roger comes, and Vicky remembers seeing his face on the front cover of Forbes magazine.
Roger Collins. I saw your picture in last month's Forbes.
I'm impressed with you, not the article.
Willie has a sister who in this version is the Collinwood's housekeeper. It also doesn't stop with the Willie connections, as in this version we also have Willie's girlfriend, who has been reading items by Professor Stokes, believing that there's a fortune in the Collins mausoleum, and that if they break in tonight, most people will dismiss it as a Halloween prank.
The Collins family stashed away a fortune in gold just after the Revolutionary War. Their own early American hedge fund.
So they probably burned through it years ago.
Maybe not. A couple of months ago, Stokes asked me to index the oldest Collins correspondence. And I found some coded entries. Pretty simple 1 = A stuff, but Stokes could have missed it.
Missed what?
Don't you get it? If I'm right, the gold is hidden on the grounds in the family mausoleum.
And you want to go?
Speaking of pranks, we are back to the classic Dark Shadows, David trying to scare his new governess, this time pretending to drown in her tub. It's actually interesting they added this suicide in after it was cut from the original Dark Shadows movie where David pretends to hang himself. Then David screams. Well, this is starting well, but Victoria is actually very tough in this version. She tells him that she knows what he's up to and that this one's on the house. She won't tell on him this time, but if he does it again, all bets are over.
I know what you pulled on your last tutor. And you still came? That was stupid. We can do this as friends or as enemies. But trust me, I am here for the duration. What are you gonna do now? Tell my dad?
First one's on the house. But if there's a next time, we start talking consequences.
Then we cut to this version of Carolyn, played by Jessica Chastain. She tells what David has done in the past, including draining a squirrel of its blood. She also tells Victoria that if she hasn't fled in the morning, she'll give her a tour of the grounds. We then see Carolyn having sex with her boyfriend on a boat. They talk about her family, and on the way back, she's walking down a very green and red Christmas road when she's grabbed by Barnabas. Again, another creepy scene. Yes, everything is kind of blurred out by the red and the green, but we do see Barnabas coming from the trees, very animal-like, crawling before he grabs her. I really liked that effect. Vicky asks about David's mother. Elizabeth is very apprehensive about talking about it, but she says she was institutionalized years ago, saying they're not sure what David remembers, and that sometimes it's easier to live a lie. Next, they find that Carolyn has been attacked. Dr. Julia Hoffman, this time played by Kelly Hu, tells Roger and the chief of police that the wound sample from Carolyn's neck came back as human. Also, she's lost over 50% of her body's blood.
Oh, they haven't found diddly squat. Tracks, fall. What the hell is going on, Julia?
It gets stranger. I got the results back from the swabs I took from Carolyn's wound. The saliva tests out human.
You're joking.
It's not as crazy as it sounds. Blood obsessions are fairly common in the medical literature.
Blood obsessions. That's a hell of a theory, Doc.
Look, I am open to alternatives. But when Carolyn came in here, she had lost over 50% of her total blood volume. And those bite marks on her neck are anything but theoretical.
Back home, there's a bang on the door. And as Barnabas appears, as does a new painting. If you're counting, this is the 4th time this scene has been done. 5 if you're counting the Tim Burton movie. He always states he comes from England and then goes to wanting to fix the old house. We saw this in the original soap opera, the 70s movie, the 90s revival, this WB pilot, and the Tim Burton film.
I'm Barnabas Collins. My apologies for the hour, but I couldn't resist any longer.
Bam! Cue Barnabas and Victoria plot. David doesn't want him to take over the old house, saying that he will scare Sarah away. Sarah, of course, being the ghost of Barnabas's little sister, not mentioned in this episode yet. Vicky sleeps and Barnabas hovers over her, staring at her neck, saying it is his dear Josette.
You've come back to me.
But it's just another dream. Or was it? They discover a dead body floating in the water. The girl was a junior at Hollowell University.
Vance. She was a junior at Hollowell University.
Hello, Charmed sisters. I love this homage because Charmed was on the WB still at the time. This victim, too, has bite marks on her neck. Now we see David is being called in his sleep by his mother and begins to follow the voice outside the grounds. He begins to dig and finds a skeleton with a dagger through its heart. The voice tells him to take it out. It hurts her. But then David realizes it's not his mother. But she tells him she will love him all the same.
You're not my mother. Who are you? Are you alive?
Not the way you think, my little angel. But I shall love you all the same.
David runs back home, awakening the family with screams. He says that she's not real, but that the woman he heard had this dagger inside of her. Carolyn wakes up at the hospital and gazes out the window. She rips off her bandages and begs Barnabas to come back.
Come back. Please. Come back.
The next day, Vicky finds David running to the old house with the dagger looking for Sarah. Willie is now working for Barnabas, and Vicky comments she likes Willie's new look. You lost your glasses. Barnabas greets them and says he's found something that would intrigue her, and Willie brings David home against his wishes. It's then that Vicky sees the portrait of Josette that appears to look just like her. He states that the first Barnabas was in love with her and they were engaged to be married. We then get the famous music box here as well, but sadly, I don't like the sound and design, having been a fan of the classic. This is a small nitpick, and possibly this could have been changed before airing, depending on if they wanted to use the Josette music box theme.
There was a time when this house was filled with light and laughter.
I'm sorry. It was on the table. Was it Josette's?
A gift. Legend has it that the first Barnabas Collins gave her this on the day he asked her to be his wife.
That's lovely.
Vicky mentions David saw a woman to Barnabas, dark eyes and hair like fire, and she asks Barnabas if he recognizes the dagger he found. Later, Barnabas tells Willie that the witch, Angelique, was buried with the dagger within her. When Vicky leaves to drive back to Collinwood, the witch stands in the road and causes her to crash her car. When Vicky comes to, she finds Angelique's head through the glass of her windshield. Vicky screams as a monstrous face pops up and says, "He's mine," cutting to black.
He's mine.
Honestly, Radical Ones, I really like this take, and I would have loved to have gotten at least a season or two. And seeing how the WB canceled one of my other favorite vampires, Angel, just to not pick this show up really stings extra hard. I want to thank everyone again for listening to these Dark Shadows videos. Please let us know in the comments if there's something from Dark Shadows that you'd like me to tackle next. I really enjoy doing these videos for all of you, and thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all your sincere comments. This video is going out to all the Dark Shadows fans. Until next time, everyone, stay scared.